welcome back to the Unstoppable Introvert Project. I'm your host, Dr. David Hooper, and today I am so excited to welcome my guest, James Roffey. From personal struggle to empowering others, James's journey is a testament to resilience, to self-reflection, to dedication, and James has gone on to do so many incredible things, from inspiring others in similar situations to building a huge following on social media to all sorts of business ventures as well that we're going to get stuck into today. So James, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm doing really well, thank you. So it's a pleasure to be invited on here. So yeah, thanks for reaching out.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. And James, I always like to kick the podcast off with the same question, and it relates back to the title of the podcast. And the Unstoppable Introvert Project is all about helping introverts become more unstoppable. And I'm interested to know, what does unstoppable either look like to you or mean to you?
I think unstoppable probably relates to me in regards to like resilience. I think they kind of go hand in hand. So to me, it's kind of like the double meaning. So like unstoppable is like whatever path you're trying to forge, no matter what happens along that journey, because there are always going to be setbacks. There's always going to be highs and lows. It's like the unstoppable part of it is just no matter what, you're never going to detour from that goal. So you've always got that. That's your end goal. So whatever you do along the process, nothing will stop you or deviate you from that path. So yeah, I think that kind of aligns with the resilience stuff that I do.
The resilience stuff that you talk about is one of the things that really attracted me to you and your profile and what your mission is. But for anyone meeting you for the first time today, how do you introduce yourself in terms of who you are and what you do?
Obviously, so I class myself as the mental health PT. Obviously, the reason for that was I'm 35 now, but from the age of 17 to 27, I had an eating disorder in the form of both anorexia and bulimia. So obviously, at my worst, I was 5.5 stone when I was 21, and I'm 6'4". So
wow,
I was circling the drain is the easiest way to put it. I was in and out of hospital. My parents had to sign a do not resuscitate form because of how the high risk of me going into cardiac arrest. The hospital wouldn't have even attempted to revive me. I spent like 6 months in a eating disorder unit at 22. Went through various forms of therapy and treatment, and luckily at 27, that's kind of when I hit that point of I need to do more with my life. I kind of got bored, and it's never people always ask like, how did you stop? And it was like it was honestly boredom. I think all the various forms of therapy that I had just slowly switched something in my brain or helped me reprogram my brain into going, there has to be more. Like this isn't a life. Like this, I'm just existing and I'm barely existing. And I think it was like my catalyst to change. Like I have to do something more with my life. I have to make my parents proud and myself proud of the person that I want to become. So that kickstarted the recovery. So I class myself as the mental health PT after many years of recovery, the gym after a relationship breakdown, and that's where my physical transformation changed or happened, and I went on to put on 5 stone in 18 months.
Wow.
And throughout the process in the gym, it became a lot of people started asking me, "Oh, like help me, train me," and it was obviously a light bulb moment kind of went off, and it's like, well, if I get qualified, I could then do this. And so 2019 is when I became a PT, and it's just snowballed from there, to be honest. Just evolved over many years.
What a great story, and it's such a great journey as well, overcoming so many different challenges. But if you take us back, James, to 17-year-old you and that guy who was suffering from anorexia and bulimia, where did that trauma start for you?
It happened. There was like three life events that happened in the space of, I think, just under 18 months. So it was mapped out for me from like a young age to be a professional footballer. So obviously I'm a goalkeeper, and I got picked up by Charlton Athletic when I was 7, and I played for them until I was just before my 17th birthday. So I played for them for near enough 10 years, and obviously every year my contract got renewed, and I was made captain and all this, and obviously it was like you get to like 15, 16, and they start talking about, yeah, professional contracts. And then at the age of 17, I got released. Like, we don't think you're good enough. We don't think you're tall enough. I didn't start growing until I was about 18, 19. I was a late developer, and yeah, I was just cut. It was like nearly 10 years of football, and go back to whatever you was doing before. Well, I haven't done anything before. This has been my life. Went back to school to focus on my A levels. Didn't do very well, and because I went to a grammar school, I was kind of asked to leave. So I ended up going to college to carry on to get enough UCAS points to go to uni. So it was like the rigmarole of, I felt like a failure because wasn't good enough for football. I then had to leave school. So all my friends that I'd known for 6 years that I saw every day, I had to leave them. Started college, which I didn't want to do, but I had to. And then when I did start college, I started in the September, and my nan got diagnosed with cancer in the following January, and she passed away in March. And it was just in the space of 18 months, I went from being the football guy that was going to make it to nothing. Um, and I didn't cope. I couldn't cope. I didn't talk to anybody about it. I just internalized everything, and I just started running. That was all I did. I was trying to, obviously, it doesn't take a therapist to work out. I was just trying to run away from my life. Um, but I think we all know that it doesn't matter how far you run or how fast you run, you can't run away from what goes on between your ears. And it was obviously, I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and I was running excessively, like 3, 4, 5 hours a day. And then I started to cut back on my food. Um, I never, I never planned. I didn't even know what an eating disorder was. Obviously it wasn't prevalent in the media. It wasn't on telly. It wasn't in magazines. Um, no one in my social circle or my family had it. It was just how I dealt with the situation. And unfortunately, because I have an obsessive personality, I take things to the extreme. And that was exactly, I had it in my head, like I wanted to be the best footballer. I want to be the best son for my parents. And when it goes into an eating disorder, I wanted to be the best person with an eating disorder. Like, I wanted to be the best at it, and I think I did quite well in a really toxic way. I was very good at it. And yeah, after 18 months of that, I'd obviously lost a lot of weight. My parents were worried about me, took me to the doctors. Obviously, I explained the situation to the doctors, and they diagnosed me with anorexia. And it was like, what's that? Like, I've never heard of it before. Um, and I think by the time that the anorexia was diagnosed, I was already shifting from anorexia to bulimia. I think I got so fed up of the not eating and the starving and the just feeling hungry all the time that I started to binge. And as soon as I ate everything in sight, then that's obviously when I started to make myself sick. And that's when my health really did start to plummet. Like, the anorexia for me was like a slow decline, whereas the bulimia was like a lift that's broken, just plummeting to the floor. And that's when obviously from 17 it was probably diagnosed at 19, and then from 19 to 21 is when I probably went from, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 stone to 5.5. And it was obviously, yeah, because I was making myself sick about 50 times a day. and just obviously not keeping anything down. And obviously the amount that I was being sick, I was bringing up all my vital nutrients and minerals in my body. So it was a slippery slope.
I think it's really interesting to hear about your football journey. So my background, James, is that it's a little bit similar to yours, actually, in that I was an academy player at Sunderland up until a similar age to you and got released. And I think a lot of people don't realise the harm that has on you at that age. That's all I'd ever wanted. I was crap at school.
Yeah,
Similar to you, I failed all my A levels and couldn't get into a uni, so I had to go to college, and that was something that weighed on me. That I was a failure. I was a failed footballer until
yep.
I was in my mid-20s, when I started to try and put a bit of perspective on this. Were you similar? Did you attach your purpose to that? And do you think that feeling of, oh, I didn't make it, do you think that was the real trigger for you, that you started just to sabotage yourself a bit?
I think of all the things that the three traumas, I think the football one was, because even to this day, although I spent a lot of time, I spent 10 years not playing football, the moment I got better and I dipped my toe in the water playing after work when I worked at a job in Sheffield, is that they went to play on a Wednesday night, and I was like, I'll go on, I'll have a go. Like, where do you play? In goal. Oh, you're crap then. There's only crap people go in goal. I was like, And then it was like, oh, he's actually got a bit. And then it led to, like, someone from there was like, oh, I play on a Sunday. Do you play weekend football? I was like, no. And then that's how I got back into it. Like, it's like a lower standard. Like, I've played like semi-pro and stuff, and yeah. And again, like you said, I attached the two biggest things for me that rock me are rejection and failure, and that's become evidently clear. We'll get into it, but obviously, whenever I have setbacks, instead of it, and this is something that is definitely a weakness in my character that I constantly need to take stock of, is the failures, because the failures, really, they are only lessons. They're not insurmountable things that are, that's it, I can't do that anymore. Then it's not about that. It's like, that approach didn't work. Let's take a little bit of that and redirect it somewhere else, because that would be a better approach to get whatever your goal is. So 100% the football thing, because it was like, I'm gonna be set for life. I'm gonna be, like, doing a job that's amazing. I'm gonna be able to pay for my family. My parents will want for nothing, and it never come to fruition. And it was like, when you're constantly being told by your coaches, hey, you're gonna make it. So you start to, but it's not. I didn't have cockiness or arrogance. It was just, people were feeding me this stuff, and it's like, well, if you think it. And like, my little claim to fame was when I was I 13. I got to train at Bisham Abbey, which was like England's training ground at the time. So it's like David Beckham, like Steven Gerrard, Alan Shearer, like Michael Owen, like, are on the pitch, like, training next to me, and it was just like, right, that's almost my little party thing. Like, tell me something about yourself that no one would ever know. It's like, well, I've played football next to all these people. It's like, no way. It's like, no, seriously. Like, we just peaked very early. We peaked too soon. But it's always there. It's always there in the back of my mind. Just, what if I'd have had a growth spurt earlier? What if I'd have been taller earlier? But genetics, you can't force that. It happens when it happens. But it's just difficult to take.
If we go back to your story then, James, I mean, the things that you've talked about, 5-ish stone, do not resuscitate in the hospital. I mean, these are crazy things to be talking about. What part of that journey do you remember? Or is it a blank gap in when you look back and you think, I've been told that happened, but I don't really remember it?
I think there's been so many things. It's not that I've like blocked them out. It's obviously my parents have helped a lot over the last 9 years of my, or 8 years of my recovery, that they've kind of filled in little bits. I think because my mental state was so bad, and like my routine was so destructive that I think it's almost a blessing now that I can't even put myself in that headspace anymore. Like I remember bits, and I remember being told about the do not resuscitate form, and like my parents were crying, and um, but I didn't care. Like I genuinely didn't care. It was like it was never a point of I wanted to die. I haven't never had them thoughts, um, and but it was just like this is my life. This is it. So whatever happens now because of it, so be it. Like, is this not the wake up call you need, James, to change? No, no, just no. I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this. And it's just yeah, I can't. I've been through like similar situations with other people that have struggled mentally, and it was just again putting myself in that position that my parents were in when you've got a loved one that is saying all the things about they don't want to be here anymore, and you literally can't do nothing. You can only be there for them, and just like my parents say to me, like back then, if they could have taken it away and given it to themselves, they would have done. And I think like I've experienced that myself, and it's kind of given me that empathy and sympathy even more because I've had a complete role reversal. Like I've been that person trying to give help to someone that doesn't want to change, and it's just like, yeah, yeah. Again, all your experiences help you grow as a person, and to be able to understand both sides, you're in a very advantageous position because there aren't many people that understand both sides, and obviously that's where I believe that like my superpower or my USP like can come into play because I can talk to the individual that's struggling, but I can also talk to the parents or the friends that can't get their head around what they're going through and try and reframe it in a way that they understand. And then if they understand it a little bit more, then they're not so on the person and like pressurizing them to change. It's just like if you do that, they will go the other way, and the worst case scenario will happen. Like you need to chill out, and it's very hard to tell people to chill out and whatnot. But when you try and play out the scenario, it'd be like they need your support. They don't need you badgering them because all you're gonna do is push away. And it's just yeah, it's again that's I think a unique skill that I've developed over this whole ordeal with the eating disorder.
Really interesting. Yeah, really interesting, James. I think that is a concept a lot of people struggle to get their heads around when it comes to offering support, certainly around mental health, that it isn't actually always so straightforward in I'm telling you how to get better, why aren't you going and doing it? It's actually sometimes you have to take a step back and allow
Mm,
that person to figure it out themselves, and just for them to know that that support is there is sometimes the first step in recovery. And
yeah.
when it comes to your journey, then you mentioned that your maybe like your routines or daily activities were a little bit crazy and weren't necessarily in a structured way that was going to help you recover. What did that look like during that 10-year period? And I'm just thinking about if anybody's listening who
Mm.
isn't aware that maybe they're suffering from an eating disorder, maybe they can pick up on some of the things you were going through, perhaps.
I think that for probably like it was about 6 years of the 10 years, my life was my daily routine was it was like during the day I had anorexia, so I wouldn't eat, and I'd try and sleep as much as possible. I would move as little as possible because if I was laying down or sitting down, if I got up too quickly out of the chair, I'd pass out.
Wow.
That's how ill I was. So really, I probably should have been in hospital a lot more than I was. But yeah, you tell them you're a mate, you feel better and all this, and because you just want to get back home out of the control of the doctors and back into your own bubble. But I used to just it's like the easiest way to put it, I would be like a sloth throughout the day. and then I would literally come alive at night when my parents went to bed. So from 10 o'clock in the evening till about 6 o'clock in the morning when my dad got up, that was my time. That was my time to binge on whatever food I wanted. Um, Obviously watch TV, binge on all this food. I I'd binge until like my literally I looked like I was pregnant. Like my stomach was so distended, and then I would spend like half an hour just making myself sick, bringing that all back up. And obviously that was um, we worked it out based on how much debt, how much money I got myself, or how much debt I got myself into, and it was about I was spending about 50 to 60 quid a day on food just to binge on. And obviously when you elongate that out to near enough 6 years, and you're not working because you're too ill to work, um, and my eating disorder and the eating disorder, I shouldn't say my, the eating disorder that I had, it was very much just like any other addiction. I was addicted to food, um, and it wasn't the fact that it was the bulimia. It was the fact that I had an addiction to food, and I had to feed my habit. Um, Obviously, like a someone that was like a drug addict or an alcoholic, um, I run out of money, so I got payday loans, I got credit cards, and when that all ran out, when I maxed them all out, I then stole off mum and dad. But like the worst thing I ever did throughout the whole time of my eating disorder was stealing money off my parents. And the image, I got like chills now. The image in my head of them confronting me in the kitchen, and they basically used to leave money as a to like entice me to steal it. And so they knew it was almost like marked money.
Yeah.
So they knew how much I'd taken, and there was me thinking like, oh, my dad would always have cash on him, so there'd always be like 100 quid in his drawer, and I'd be like, I'll take 40. He won't realize that. Who wouldn't realize that 40 quid's gone almost every day? Um, yeah, and it was just like the look on my mum and dad's face when they confronted me about it, and it was like the shame, the disappointment, and it's just like again, I did a post recently about trauma, and I think that it didn't help me. It wasn't the catalyst to change straight away, but that image of them confronting me has stayed with me 8 years on. So that's clearly helped me, and it's that there will always be these like seminal moments in your life that you take away, and that's one of them. And that's where once I battled it and I got over it, I never lie. I can't lie because to me, if I start lying, I'm basically putting myself back into the eating disorder mindset. It's like if I can lie, I can. That's the slippery slope back to relapsing. Um, yeah, I used to be the best liar in the world, and now even if I tell a white lie, I laugh, I smirk, I just I'm crap at lying, which is a good thing, obviously. But yeah, there's so many little things that I didn't even pick up about what I've learned or how I've changed, and it's not until you do the little self-reflection or just the talking with your parents or your friends or your loved ones, and you go, I don't actually, that's different. I didn't even realize I did that, and that's progress. That is progress actually, because I wouldn't have done that however many years ago, and that's obviously where you pat yourself on the back with your little small wins of little changes that you've made to your life that have helped you battle the demons and keep them at bay. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the a lot of the time though the reason for your success now is because of those setbacks that you had. And I love how open and honest and how much ownership that you have of all of this.
Mm.
And that's so inspiring to see. And at what point was your, I want, not necessarily rock bottom moment, but the moment where you started to change and you started to move out of that that period of your life where you were binge eating and making yourself sick and actually started to take some positive steps towards recovering? What was that process like?
It wasn't a quick one. I think obviously it took me about 3 years. I think it was when I was about 24. That's when I realized it was like this. The easiest way that I can describe it is that, if you look at things with rose tinted glasses, so you see the best in everything, like it's like I removed them off of me and I saw myself for how I was. Because obviously, one of the things that I don't know whether people know, that in terms of, like, if you have an eating disorder, you're going to have body dysmorphia, because the whole reason why you don't eat is because you don't like the way that you look. And it may be that, like with me, despite the fact I could see, you could literally see my skeleton, like through I just hadn't, I had no fat on me at all. And if I bent over, like, you could see all my rib cages on my back and like my pelvis. But even with me, I looked at myself in the mirror and I just thought, you're fat. And if I sat down and there was like a roll, that's fat. Not the fact that it's skin, it's fat. So that needs to go. So I'm not skinny enough. Um, and I think that the body dysmorphia was probably one of the first things that went. And I actually saw myself for how I was, how skinny, how ill. And even like there was like conversations between like my parents' friends and stuff, that they thought I had cancer. They thought I was dying, which technically I was. Everybody's dying, but I was accelerating that with what I was doing to myself. But it's almost like I kind of saw that I was putting shame on the family. Um, and it was just like, that's not fair. That's not right. Like, my parents have given me everything. Like, my mum and my dad, my dad especially is like my idol. I look up to my dad, and he is completely self-made. Like, he's given us a life that you could only wish for. And he put me and my brother through like private education. We went to grammar schools, and it's like, my brother's 5 years older than me. So luckily, when my eating disorder started, he was at uni and he was away for the whole of the eating disorder, which was a complete blessing. Um, so he was out getting his degree, and then got into work, and he's very successful now himself. And it was just like, I'm just a burden. Like, I'm just this. Yeah. Oh, how's like your elder son doing? Oh, yeah, he's got his degree and he's doing his job, and then he's met his missus and he's gonna get married. And how's James? Yeah, like day to day. Like, you can tell there was shame, and it's like, not, they wouldn't openly say it, but I was a massive disappointment. And like, I know you need to change for yourself, and evidently I wanted it, but I think the initial thing for me was, I want better for my parents. I don't want my parents to be ashamed of their son. Like, and yeah, it was just, I just felt like the life that I was given, I wasn't fulfilling my potential. Um, and then I ended up seeing of all the therapists and treatment that I had, I saw a sports psychologist. And he was incredible, because he basically, like, cut all the crap out, and it wasn't like, how are you feeling? Like, how is it? Didn't want to look back at in the past. It was looking at the future. Like, yes, you've got an eating disorder. Do you want to get rid of it? Yes. How are we going to get rid of it?
Mhm.
And it was just, he was so blunt. And I think it was, okay. And because he worked with a football team at the time, and the England cricket team, it was like, oh, hello, like, football background. I know, I like this guy. And so I gave myself to him. And obviously, yeah, if you can find someone that you can resonate with, massive help, huge help. And it was him that kind of got me into the mindset of finding my purpose. And obviously, my purpose at the time was to feel like a member, like an active member of society. And that came in the form of getting a job. And obviously, that's what, again, my dad, using his network, got me a job as a business development manager for a double glazing company. And that was the start of everything. Um, just to be able to have structure again in my life, and to be at a place at a certain time and do a job and come home. And when I did come home, I literally just carried on working, um, like finding leads, lead sourcing, building databases, like trying to do everything I could, because I had already identified by then that boredom was my trigger. And it's like, so if I carry on working and I'm constantly in work mode, I can't be in eating disorder mode. So it's like came home, carried on working, had something to eat, not obviously not a lot, had a shower, went to bed, got up, went to work, and that was my routine for like 18 months. So I still had little blips, and obviously I still did binge at times when that urge got too much. But from going from making myself sick 50 times a day to, I don't know, like maybe 50 times once a week, just having a really like blowout binge, I've still won the week. And then weeks turned into months. And then obviously that's how I was slowly using work to reprogram the routine of the eating disorder through work. Um, and obviously and then that's when I got the opportunity to move up to Sheffield for a new job, a new career, new start. And that's when it was just like, this is it now. Like if I move up to Sheffield and I take this job, I don't have my parents. Like my brother's up in Sheffield, but he's not aware of any of this. Like he knows how bad it was, but he didn't live it. And I can't be knocking on his door, being a burden to him because he won't know how to deal with it. And it was kind of like this. I usually like I had to put on my big boy pants. And at 27, it was like you really have got to make this work now because you can't keep screwing up your life because the next time you screw up and you relapse, you may not come back from it. And yeah, and obviously that's where the journey took me up north to Sheffield at 27, and then like my new career began. So yeah,
There's so much to unpack there, James, and it's again so honest and open, and it's so appreciated. I'm sure whoever's listening to this is going to be taking so much from it. I think the first question would be you're very open about having therapy, which again I think's great. What is your message to those people who are maybe looking at therapy who are like, oh, I don't want to be labeled as someone who's going to therapy. I don't want any help. What would your message be to those people?
don't judge something you've never tried.
Mm.
Um, I completely get it. I completely get like we live in a society now where, well, it's either men need to be men or we're part of a woke culture where men can't even be men anymore, and there's no middle ground anymore. And I get it. I know it. Like especially this moment in time, it's incredibly difficult to admit that you're having therapy. But like to me, you don't need to tell everybody. You don't really need to. You can tell your family and friends. Like your therapist ain't gonna out you on social media, so no one really needs to know. And it's almost like if you try it and you give it a go for a couple of sessions, and it literally leaves you feeling full of anxiety and it's full of pressure, and you don't like it, try something else. At least you can then go, I tried it, it didn't work for me. And I'm all for that. Like I've worked with therapists when I had the eat disorder, and they were horrendous. They made the situation worse for me. But I still went and saw other therapists and other psychologists, and obviously I had therapy this year in January for like 5 weeks. And I just think it all depends on the person that you go with. Every therapist is different. Some therapists may be more active in how they speak with you. Others may just give you the floor and you just talk, and they just sit there, no judgment, and just let you unpack everything that's going on in your head. And every now and then may just go give you a little nudge or steer you in a direction or go, based on what you said, X, Y, and Z. So it's very much everybody's person dependent, and every therapist is person dependent, and they will have different little tweaks. And just because you've done one therapy session with one therapist, don't judge everybody by that one person. So, but to me, it's not. It needs to be reframed in society. That if you're struggling and you feel like you need to unpack the stuff in your head, to actually go and speak to someone, to me, that's strength way more than weakness. I don't, and I think anybody that ridicules them for it, shame on you. Like, but yeah, it's just difficult because I understand it and I know the benefit of it, and I'm at a point now where I am so self-confident in myself about the things that I do that you're not going to make me change. You're not going to make me feel guilty. Obviously, and other people may not be at that point just yet, and they may be more influenced by the media or their peers, or yeah, and that could deter them. But it's just give it a go. Just give it a go, because if it's like, oh, what if it doesn't work? What if it does? What if it does? And you end up unpacking everything, seeing it in a different light, and feeling free, and then everything just works. So yeah.
So good, so good. And I've read so many studies and reports about the most successful people in the world have multiple therapists. And it's something that is such can be such a positive experience. But I love that whole phrase that you mentioned as well. Is that what's the worst that can happen? If it doesn't work, that's fine. Go in a different direction.
Mm.
But there's no harm in trying it. And the second thing I wanted to pick up on, James, I think you've done some posts about this in your past on social media, is around your why. And you mentioned had these big realizations about letting your parents down, and that started to change your mindset a little bit as well. So what is your why at that moment?
Yeah, no, I think obviously the whole reason for changing, I think my why was like there has to be more. There has to be more. I have to be more like valuable. I have to be more. I just have to do more with my life. I said with the education and like the upbringing that I had, it's like I got given everything that you would want as a kid. And obviously, I know the mental health issue that I had obviously steered me down a dark path, but like I think although at the time I kind of attached, like it was almost like Stockholm syndrome is what I had. It was almost like I'd become so attached to the eating disorder that it just consumed me to the point where I lost my identity, and it was like we came as a package now. It's not this is James, he has an eating disorder. It was this is James with the eating disorder. Like we came as a combo. It was like it was my identity. And I think when I managed to detach it, and it was almost like the why was almost like I need to change. I need to change. Obviously, I didn't know how, and obviously that's where we started to. I saw all these various forms of therapy. Like I saw like hypnotists and like psychotherapists and obviously and then the sports psychologists. So again, going back to the therapy thing, it's almost like just try a whole load of stuff, and one thing will work, and it would just be like that golden nugget of God, like wow, that changes everything. And obviously that's what happened with me. So I think yeah, the why at the time was like you need to change. So if I didn't change, there's no way I'd still be here today. Had I not have made the changes that I made, that realization at 24, and I carried on in this cycle, 100% I would have died by now. I don't think there's any, there's no ifs and buts about that. I think it would have just been like the stress that I put on my body, like my heart or whatever would have given out by now. So it was almost like yeah, I kind of just gave myself that call to action that I needed to change. Again, when you're stuck in that cycle of self-sabotage for at that time it was probably 8 years. It's like I want to change. I do not have a Scooby-Doo how. And that's obviously where like my dad was just like, let's just try all these things. Obviously there wasn't mental health wasn't prevalent in society. Back when we're talking like 11, 12 years ago. So and access to probably better services that are here today weren't available. So it was literally just a scattergun approach of try that, try this, try this. And obviously, luckily, like the sports psychologist guy was the catalyst to my change. And then obviously then the why probably changed quite often. It went from like you need to change to I need to get back into work. And then obviously then it was like I want to yeah, I became obsessed with work, and then work became everything to me. Again, it wasn't healthy, but it was better to be obsessed with work than obsessed with the eating disorder. So it was like the lesser of two evils. And it took me took me absolutely years to find balance. And obviously that's something that you hear on, oh, you've got to find balance. And that's a very, very hard thing to say because everybody's balance is different and everybody's reasons for doing things are different. Everybody's person dependent. And I think there is no right or wrong answer with balance. It's like only that person will know. Like, are you giving yourself enough self-love, self-care time? And only they know that because everybody's routines are different. But I think the why at the time was I just need to change, and then it changed to getting back into work, and then obviously then it changed to this job opportunity moving up to Sheffield. So it's like let's move 250 miles away from everybody that I know to try and like force myself into a new area and to test myself mentally. Can I cope being in a city on my own with no one looking after me, no eyes on me? If I wanted to not go to work and stay up all night binging, I could have done, but then you'd have gone back to being a failure, and then that would have been, uh, yeah, I don't know. You don't even want to think what my life would have been had that have happened. So, yeah, it was kind of like the tiny little elements of personal development that I'd made in like the 18 months, 2 years of getting back into work to then moving up to Sheffield. Clearly, there was some improvements in my life, and I wasn't healthy, and I probably still wasn't happy, but I was better than what I was, and better enough to maintain a kind of status quo with my health, as in I can do that and I can work as well, and we could just slowly adjust to this new regime and then try and improve as and where we see fit. So yeah, that's kind of the why question was it changed a lot in that period of time.
And that takes us kind of nicely back to your journey. So you've arrived in Sheffield. At what point did exercise start to come into play for you where you're going to be taking that a little bit more seriously?
And that happened like the job that I moved up to Sheffield for, I got made redundant after 6 months. When I came back off holiday, that's when I met this girl. So I met a girl, and really it was the first girl that I'd ever loved, my first love, and the first girl or the first person apart from my family that showed me any attention in 10 years. And I latched onto that. It was like, wow, like someone likes me, someone wants to spend time with me, someone's like giving me compliments, like, oh my God, this is incredible. And it probably was. They always say that like people come into your life for a reason. And I think she definitely did. I think she was the final piece of the puzzle in regards to me recovering from the eating disorder mentally, because you're so secretive, you are conniving, you're deceitful, you're a pathological liar. It's the eating disorder that does that. It's not you, it's not inherently in you. But for me to then go, I want to be with this person, and then after 6 months, my apartment came up for renewal, and I actually moved in with her after 6 months. So I moved in with her and her daughter, and I gave up my routine to fit her routine. And at the time, didn't even think about that. It was more just like, I want to be with you, and I don't, yeah, come and live with me. Okay, fine, yeah, let's live together. And it wasn't until like I got there, and it was like, wow, I don't even have the option to relapse or go back because I'm with her now, and I'm with her daughter, and I have a responsibility as a male role model for a daughter and to be a partner to my partner, that I can't be doing stuff like that. Um, that was uh, that was about a year of my life taken up, and then one day I got another job, working at the Sheffield Star, a newspaper, and then one day when I was going to work, she sent me like a WhatsApp message, but I don't love you anymore. I'm going to stay at my dad's tonight. I want you to move out. Um, yeah, that was my what the hell am I going to do? Um, and so I ended up, obviously, I moved out. I stayed in a hotel for a few nights, and then I moved in with my brother. And obviously, I moved in with my brother. I quit my job and I started going to the gym. I never got closure from that relationship. I didn't understand the reason why, so I created my own closure. And it was, I don't look like a man. I don't feel that I have any value or presence as a man, and that's the reason why. So if I go to the gym and I get a little bit bigger, because obviously, like I was when I first started going to the gym, I was 9.5 stone at 6'4". So mentally, I was recovered from the eating disorder by then. Physically, no. I looked like a gust of wind and I'd have blown over. And like being with the ex, it was like if yeah, God forbid if we were out and anything kicked off, because she'd have to protect me because I would probably get the crap beaten out of me if I piped up to anyone. So it was like I just attached that. That's the reason. That has to be the reason why. So I started going to the gym and I shared that story with the guy that owned the gym, and he's like, if you want to change, like, I'll help you change. He's like, you can train with my son, and he's like, if you commit to us, you'll get bigger, you'll get stronger, and you'll feel better within yourself, and you'll feel more confident. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want. It's like it's not going to be easy, but if you really want it, then you'll make it happen. And so I literally went to the gym every day for 18 months. Like lived, breathed it. It became my job. Obviously, I told my dad, like, I've quit my job and I need this for, I didn't know how long it was. I was like, for the foreseeable future, I'm not going to work and I'm going to work on myself. Um, and he was like, you're an idiot. I was like, I am. I was like, but I really feel like this is the final piece of me recovering. And obviously that's when I started the Instagram and the like doing Facebook Live videos, working out. And obviously at the time it was more of a, people said to me like, you're doing it for clout, or you do like you're chasing likes and stuff. And eventually that's one of the reasons, but it was more the accountability. And again, it went back to the failure and the competitiveness of football. All my past things came into play, and it was like, if I set myself a challenge now and I almost make this public declaration that I'm going to change, I can't fail because I cannot be a failure. And this is not just a failure to myself or my family. This is for anyone that follows me. I don't want to give them ammunition to take the mick. And obviously that's what I did. And obviously that's where I went from like 9.5 stone to 15.5 stone in 18 months. And
Wow.
that led to me getting into like modeling work and acting work and like TV and working with Adidas, and then all in the back of that was the personal training. Was obviously people going like, mate, your transformation's mad, like train me. And it was like, yeah, right, like train me. I had all these people, and it was like, well, I could actually make this a job. I could become a personal trainer. Um, and yeah, so I did. So I became a PT in February 2019, and I basically had two jobs. I was PTing, and then I was also doing the extra work. I was with an agency, and I was going on all the soaps, and I was got into like Adidas and working with like footballers and all this stuff, and it was just like, wow, this is crazy. Like, what a life. Um, and then I was doing that up until December 2019, and then that's when I broke my leg playing football. Um, 28th of December, I broke my leg playing football, and then I was out of action. Um, and that's when, while I was at home in the cast, that's when um, I met my now wife. Um, we started talking, and then when I came out of that cast, that's when we met and went on our first date on in January 2020. And then yeah, 6 weeks after the first leg break, I then broke my other leg in four places.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so just before lockdown, I got sent home just before lockdown with a cast on, literally from like toe to upper thigh. I couldn't move my leg. Um, I was in the cast until September 2020. Came out the cast, got told I was clinically healed, and I was allowed to start putting impact through it again. And it coincided with pre-season with football, and I was like, I'll go back to football and I'll go back to training. And if it feels right, then I'll play in a couple of friendlies and then we'll see. And it felt all right. And I went through what, like 3 or 4 weeks. Like let's say I played like 3 or 4 games. First game of the season, it broke a game. So yeah, so it was like three leg breaks in 8 months is what I dealt with during lockdown. Um, but obviously it was a very difficult time mentally. Obviously I wasn't working. Um, Financially it was crippled me. But the positive to come from it was that I had met someone. And my partner was she basically put herself in my bubble. So she lived in Huddersfield, I lived in Sheffield, and she used to come and drive to me like three days a week, did my shopping, looked after me, spent time with me. And obviously, you need that social interaction. Obviously, lockdown would have been incredibly difficult without her. And we formed this like unbreakable bond throughout the whole of lockdown. It was me and her, um, and I fell in love with her, and she fell in love with me, and it was like this really nice little love story. Um, and like I never wanted kids. Kids were never in my thoughts. I think because of the eating disorder and the age of like 17 to 27, when most guys have done their party life, their party, and then they settle down, and it's like I missed all that, and I kind of missed that maturity of like settling down. Okay, house, marriage, kids. That never really entered my head. I just think it was just something that passed me by um, until I met her. Until I met her, and obviously then I fell in love, and she was someone that I thought was so different to anybody else that I'd ever met. And I was always the caring one. And it was like at the start of the relationship, I was as caring as I could be without physically being caring because I couldn't leave the house. So she did it. And it was just like, no one's ever done this for me. What's the catch? Like, what you want to scam me? Like, what I don't get what the deal is. And then yeah, so our relationship just like blossomed from there, and um, I asked her to marry me after we were together for like a couple of years, and we got married last year. We got married in June, um, and the idea, like I wish we could have had a videographer on the day that filmed me because it would have been embarrassing to watch back. Like I've never been so emotional. Like I was fine in the morning and all that. And when it got to putting on my suit, and then I went down into the room, and I saw everybody waiting in there, and obviously we were waiting for um my my wife to come in. It just hit me, this emotion of I never thought I'd be married. I never thought I would find someone that I could share my life with because of all the shit that had happened in my past. It was just like I don't really think I gave myself value despite the recovery journey that I'd been on. It was just like, how have I got someone that wants to spend the rest of their life with me? Like the idea of being married is like my mum and dad have been married for nearly 50 years. My
Wow.
brother has been with his partner for 20 years, married for 12. So it's like the two men that I look up to most. It's like I'm joining that. I've leveled up. I've like this is in terms of being with someone, you can't get better than that. And I've made it. And I was just it was just that emotion came out, and I just couldn't stop crying. And even when we walked in, I couldn't look at her because it's like hearing the music and hearing everybody like gasp, and it was just like I can't look. If I look, I'm gonna go again, and I'm not gonna be able to stop. And um, I was just it wasn't even it wasn't even about her or my parents or anybody else. I was so proud of myself. It was just like I never thought this was going to happen, and it's happening, and it's just like, well done, you. So again, big, big advocate of therapy, finding the right therapist, obviously, and obviously, luckily I did. The guy that I saw was brilliant. Um, and again, it's just like th- everything that I do within my coaching program is called the resilience program, and it's just the since becoming a PT in 2019, I've had I had to have an operation on my neck to get rid of what they thought was cancer that turned out to be an embryonic cyst. I've had 3 leg breaks. I've got married. I've well, I'm going to get divorced. I've dealt with a bereavement during just after lockdown as well. So it's just like there isn't anything now that someone can come to me with that I haven't experienced, or yeah, within reason. So it's like issues around food, issues around anxiety, social anxiety, depression, loneliness, um, fertility, infertility, marriage, breakdown, heartbreak. Like I'm like the jack of all trades. Like I'm just like there isn't anything that you could that someone could come to me with, and I go, honestly, mate, I've got you. I know exactly how you feel, and I think that like again, like the old saying, like you grow through what you go through. What are the blessings that I can take from it? The lessons, how do you deal with it? How do you cope? How do you keep going? How do you keep coming back? How can I use this as advice to give other people? And these are, and I wouldn't, if you don't go through trauma, you never actually level up and know who you are as a person. And I didn't want the trauma. Nobody wants trauma, but it shapes who you are, and you have to use a negative experience with a positive outcome. And again, that's the only way that I can deal with this going forward, is the fact that I spent a lot of time focusing on myself. Again, my coping mechanisms, the gym, work, football, all the things that make me me, I doubled down on that. And all in the back of my mind, I have a really close friend that has been through something very similar to me last year, and he kept on saying to me, if you keep doing this and you keep doing the deep work, the deep dive into your life, and you better yourself, you will find the universe will chuck something your way that you'll never see coming.
Yeah, what an amazing story and journey, and yeah, I'm so glad that it sounds like it's got a happy ending, and being able to deal with all of those traumas again, like you mentioned, just the way you're able to turn your traumas into something positive in terms of helping others and leading the way for other men. Certainly, it's so inspiring. You're going to be helping so many people.
Mm.
And on that note, we've got to talk about the huge following that you've been able to develop. I mean, 75,000 people on Instagram. That's an amazing number there. At what point did you realize that your account was blowing up and that there was an interest in what you were doing?
It would have been within probably like the first like 6 months to a year, because initially when I first started on Instagram, I had a private account. So it was like, I think I can't even remember. I think you could link your Facebook and Instagram. So like I don't know how it was, but it just ended up like I'd go to bed, and then I'd wake up in the morning, and I'd have 2, 3, 400 like requests to follow me, and it was just like, yeah, why, how? So it's like, so I'd spend the morning just going, yeah, 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 and obviously it got to the point, it was like, if I'm accepting everyone, it might as well just be public. Like I'll just turn it into a public one. And I think that's when it just, yeah, it was almost like I was growing like a few hundred followers every day, and obviously whatever I was posting was I clearly got into like algorithm. I don't understand anything on Facebook and Instagram. It's like I know that I just try and post every day to be consistent. I said, but obviously early on it was just, yeah, it was like the exposure that I seemed to get was crazy. And I think initially it wasn't really. I don't think the initial like boom of my Instagram wasn't to do with mental health. I think it was more just to do with the physical transformation, and it was just more to do with the workouts. I think it's only been probably post lockdown when I really started what I'm doing now, because before I was just a PT, just you're not run of the mill PT, but I was just a PT, and it wasn't until like the whole lockdown scenario of not working, and then everybody seemed to become an online coach during lockdown, which I don't really understand how that happened when you couldn't go anywhere, but suddenly everyone was qualified. And it was like, how can I differentiate myself? Like you go into any gym and there's 10 PTs that are there. So it's like, what can I do? What can I use? It was like, well, since I've become a PT, like I haven't come across any guy that openly talks about their eating disorder. Like guys just don't talk about it. I've seen like a number of like female accounts that talk about it, and one specific to the bodybuilding world, where obviously like the dieting, like the heavy diets, and then the yo-yo dieting. What after like a heavy cutting phase, you then like balloon back up again, and the unhealthy relationship that you have with food that inherently can start eating disorders. And it was just like, well, it has to be something around mental health. I had people reach out to me during lockdown and towards the end of lockdown that were like struggling with the idea of going back into work. I don't want to go into work, and like it's been rammed down your throat for the last however many years that you can't interact with anyone. Now I can go back in the office with everybody. Like that doesn't sit right with me. What can I do? And yeah, and it was just like, I need to evolve what I'm doing. I want to be more of an online coach than an in-house PT because I can help more people. And that's where it was just James, the mental health PT, kind of sums up what I do and what I'm about. Yeah, so that was that been like June or July of 22 was when I relaunched, when I relaunched, and I got the logos and whatnot, and that's obviously. But yeah, since then, yeah, obviously like my whole like content and my message has been solely aimed at the mental health side of things. And obviously people that aren't interested in exercise and fitness, despite how important it is, won't be interested in what I do. I understand that a lot of people are more creatively minded, and that they may struggle with food, or they may struggle with anxiety and depression, but they like to write, or they like to draw, or they like to sing, so I know that not everybody is going to find what I do useful to them, and I completely get that. Everybody's person dependent, but obviously the people that follow me would have an interest in sport. It doesn't have to be the gym, it doesn't have to be bodybuilding. It's whatever sport that you're interested in. You can work with me and I will utilize whatever sport you do. There's no one size fits all. And obviously that's been like a key message to get. I don't like going to the gym. Fine. What do you like to do? Play football. Love it. Okay. Then we'll focus your training around football and going for a run or walking, getting steps in. That can be your focus. That's fine. It's obviously that's just one pillar of what I do. Like I have like 4 pillars. So it's like mental health, mindset is the top one, then the training, your nutrition, and then work-life balance. So it's about making sure that everything you do, you're giving yourself enough time for your family, for yourself, to be able to just, essentially, you're not like burning the candle at both ends. You're allocating yourself enough time, whether that be half an hour a day, or on a weekend, you give yourself like a whole chunk of time to just relax, debrief from work, journal some things, or some goals for next week or for next month, so you have it written out and you've made a conscious effort to go, I'm going to do this. I've written it out, therefore it's not a public declaration, it's like a personal declaration that these are my goals for the next month, and you're then accountable for that. And obviously that's when in my coaching app we have a daily habits like checklist. So we work together and we'll come up with 20 things that you need to do throughout the day. And that could just be like getting up, making your bed, having a wash in the morning, brushing your teeth, getting your food ready for the day. So before you've even left the house, you've ticked off 7 things to do. And obviously then one of them things would be to work on your goal for the next month. What is your main goal? And what are you going to do every day? What small thing are you going to do every day to make sure that you are 1% better, or you're 1% further like towards hitting your goal? So, and obviously that kind of incorporates the mindset and the work-life balance like side of the pillars as well. And obviously the nutrition stuff, whatever your goal is that you want to achieve, it's a little bit like the app that I've got. It's kind of like MyFitnessPal. So you have an allotted amount of calories, and if you track the food that you eat and it takes it away from like your daily amount, so you know you're far more accountable of how much you need to eat to stay in alignment with your goals. So again, it's just about, with me, it's not about lift that, eat that, train like that. It's the education. It's the education side of things that, like, I know that most people will have a couple of breakfasts to eat, 3 or 4 lunches, and maybe 4 or 5 dinners. So if you eat that same amount of things within the space of 6 months, you're going to know, well, if I have that breakfast, that lunch, and that dinner, that's my daily amount done. So, and then, so you don't need to track it anymore. You intuitively know. So again, you know that when you go on holiday and things like that, where you can release the reins or release the shackles a little bit more, you know, well, I usually have that for breakfast, so I'll have something similar. And then, like, you know that you're still within the realms of, I don't know, 10, 15% of what you should be eating. And it's just, with me, it's not about working with me for years. It's just about working with me enough that you are empowered to go, I know how to train, I know how much I need to move, I know how much I need to eat, and like the daily habits that I've got, they become part of my life now, that they're done almost like on a subconscious level. And it's like, when they reach that point, it's like, you don't need me anymore. Like, and obviously, I've got my training app. So you've got me in your pocket whenever you need, and then when you don't need that anymore, I'm currently building a school community. So it's like, and it's called the so I've got the resilience program, and then it's the resilience project. So it's obviously anyone that's been on the app that still wants a little bit of extra accountability, they can go into like my little community, whereby they'll get like, well, check-ins with me. We'll do like a weekly or monthly, like live, like Zoom live video, where they can like ask me questions, or I can talk about a particular topic. And so they've still got that extra accountability, but it's not at the same level as being within the app. So there are always things that they can do. So it's almost like you're taking the stabilizers off the bike, but I'm still watching you. So you're in charge. I'm just watching at afar, and you can still contact me as and when you need. Um, so that's kind of like, you don't just want to go, right, you're done now, off you pop. Like, I'm still going to be there, just at a lower level. And I think that's, yeah, that's the coaching side of what I do. And obviously, I think, like we spoke about at the start, like my big push this year is the corporate is the corporate side of the things of my business, trying to grow that, whereby, like, similar to the podcast, it's like sharing my story, sharing the importance of openly talking about your problems. But then it's all well and good talking about your problems, but you don't need to action upon them, because otherwise you're just, yes, I have a problem. Yes, I have a problem. Yes, I have a problem. And you keep saying it and you don't do anything about it. You then normalize the problem. So the problem then isn't a problem to you anymore, because you've openly spoken about it, but it's still there. You're just not doing anything about it. So it's obviously like, it's about introducing like positive coping strategies and mechanisms into their lives. And so it's like doing talks, doing like little individual workshops, and then people that may need to use me on a one-to-one basis can then use me after. And obviously the whole point in that is the number of, it's like 1 in 13 um, full-time workers in the UK are on long-term sick because of their mental health. So it's
Wow.
like, if I go in and I can help what one person get back into work. What's the average salary in the UK? Like 25 grand. Like, you basically, that company is getting a member of staff back that they were paying like statutory sick pay for, and their productivity will improve. See, like, morale will improve. If like there's this big like gap between manager, directors, and then the workers on the floor. And it's like, if the workers feel that their mental health and well-being is being looked after or invested in, it's like, actually, my manager isn't a dick. Like, they actually care. And it's like just bridging that gap. And also, yeah, sharing my story and sharing my little strategies of how to deal with life better, because life will always screw you. To me, it's a win-win. The company have an image of like, oh, we're doing this, we're looking after our staff mental health because we've got James coming in, and the staff could be like, oh, yeah, they actually care about me. All right. It's like, yeah, absenteeism can reduce, productivity can increase, and everyone's a winner. And obviously that's what I'm trying to tap into like this year. So yeah,
Yeah. Amazing things going on, some really exciting stuff, and yeah, I'm so pleased for you. And like I say, you're leading the way not only men's mental health, but mental health in general. And
Yeah.
I do want to be respectful of your time, James. So, last question is, where is best for people to connect with you, to reach out to you, to sign up for your programs? Where can they get in touch with you?
I think Instagram is the best one. It's the one that I'm on like most of the time. So obviously it's James the Mental Health PT is my name on there. And obviously I've launched my new website, which kind of encompasses everything that my coaching program and the corporate stuff is what I do. And obviously that's www.mentalresiliency.com. So something a little bit different. But obviously that has everything that I'm about, what I do, and my testimonials and client transformations and stuff on there. So those are the two best places I think to reach me. So yeah.
Superb. And I'll make sure that your links and handles and stuff are in the show notes as well.
Brilliant.
And you'll be tagged in everything, of course. But James, thank you so much. This has been so insightful, so raw and open and honest. It's going to change so many people's lives. And I'm just so thankful for your time.
Honestly, I appreciate the opportunity. I really do. Thank you.
No, it's completely my pleasure. And yes, thank you so much, James, for coming on today. And thank you all so much for listening. And remember, being an introvert isn't the thing that'll hold you back. It is the thing that will catapult you towards greatness. So until next time, stay unstoppable.